Hello, and welcome to another episode of Something Up My Sleeve, the show where we ask magicians, what's something up your sleeve? and we get a variety of answers. And it has been such a privilege to be able to interview some of the world's finest magicians, people that I am so honored to even have met in person or on video. So thank you to the International Brotherhood of Magicians for giving me this opportunity. This is our third season and our third episode of our third season, where we get to talk to amazing magicians. I'm so excited about tonight's episode because we've got a whopper for you, some of the best in the biz, and I completely mean that. For starters, I want to ask all of you, did you see the eclipse? Did everybody get to see the eclipse? Because it was really cloudy here. Um, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this or not, but for those that don't know, that was actually an illusion. David Copperfield was rehearsing for his moon disappearance. They got it kind of backwards, but it was just a rehearsal. I don't know how it affected anybody. I couldn't see anything because in Louisiana it was full of clouds, but hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully it was a magical experience for you. Now let's kick this off. I have a pre-recorded video that I'm going to share with you, and this is, when I say best in the biz, I absolutely mean that everyone in our industry knows she is incredible. She is a machine, and she is a finely tuned machine that always delivers when people see her MC a show. And it's interesting because she's got some amazing skills beyond just magic and known as an incredible MC. And when people see her, they know they have a special experience happening here, because you can't find a performer like this anywhere. And I'm talking about Jan Rose. I was fortunate to perform at the Chicago Magic Lounge recently and got to sit down with her live. So we have a pre-recorded interview. But first, let me give you a little Jan Rose experience with a little promotion, and then we're going to go right into that pre-recorded video. So she has been at the Chicago Magic Lounge as a regular. She has been at the Magic Castle. She has been known in this industry as being someone who is at the top of her career and has worked with names like Eugene Berger and Jay Marshall and Max Maven, and has just recently received an award that we're going to talk about as well. So I now give you Jan Rose.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing in our history. Are you ready for the show? So give her a warm Chicago welcome and enjoy the magic of Rachel Wax, the spellbinder. Mark Tolan. His ability to bring his audiences surprise and wonder, and two, his distaste for honest work. Justin Purcell, Jenny Corby, to Alexandra Vivier. She is a lady of extraordinary abilities, known for her comedy magic and her exceptionally good hair. Lucy Darling, Lee Bensequin, Ryan Blunkett. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jan Rose. Good night.
So hold on a second. Apparently, we're not getting sound. I'm glad I was looking at the chat. So thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jeffrey. We're not hearing anything. So let me remedy that. This is why I love the pre-recorded segments that I do, and I can just throw it out there and like check everything. Every time it's live, you got to deal with like ADD boy trying to figure it out. So let's make sure we do have sound on this. So give me a second here. I'm going to start it over because we don't want to miss any of this. These words of wisdom from Jan. Hold on a second.
Action, okay. Welcome once again to the beautiful Chicago Magic Lounge. We are in the 654 Club, a very special venue, the only venue in Chicago and one of the only venues in the world where one can witness close-up magic in a stadium seating. And I am very lucky to have the illustrious Jan Rose with me today, who is very quickly becoming such a respected magician and performer in the industry of magic, because what she does on stage as basically the full-time MC of this club is absolutely incredible. Before we get into that, let me ask Jan the question I ask all my guests is, what is something up your sleeve?
Up my sleeve is that I'm very excited to be working as much as I am. I love working, and I love working at the Chicago Magic Lounge, so I'm just continuing my work, getting more and more of it. And also, what's so wonderful about the Chicago Magic Lounge, and you've worked with us so frequently in different rooms, that you know you can always grow, and there's a lot of room for creativity, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt that way this entire. I've been here for a week now, and I feel that my act has grown in leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've had some incredible enlightenment along the way. Especially one of the questions I want to ask you is, are there moments that you remember because you're seeing a multitude of magicians, you're seeing some amazing things happening both backstage and on stage? Are there mind-blowing moments where you've learned some things or realized like mystifying events where you're like, wow, I just learned something about magic?
I think it happens, I think I'm constantly learning and growing and always reminded and remembering the things that I learned in theater school when I was very young, because I started as an actress. My early training, was first as a dancer and then an actress, and then I did get a degree in performing arts and theater, and I worked in theater for so long that all those messages of all the directors that I worked with, they still come back to me every single night. Also, I've been very lucky and blessed to have been in magic 40 years.
Wow.
I just celebrated my 40th year in magic last November.
I thought you just celebrated your 40th birthday.
Oh, you're so nice.
I try.
Yes, I like that. But yeah, 40 years in magic, and I've had some wonderful night that goes by, and you know this again because you've worked with us so much, where I stand at this performance bar, right, where I'm ready to, take the stage, to take the ramp, and when I'm standing there and I'm waiting for my cue from the pianist, and I'm waiting for the high sign from from Ryan and Tech, I'm thinking, thank you so much, Eugene Berger.
Wow.
Because Eugene was someone in my career who said to me, work really, really hard and take the time to learn something that's very difficult to do. And if you do that, you will always work.
For a minute
Because
there, I
you'll be
felt like you were
special.
channeling him.
You know, you'll be special. You'll do something that's unique, that makes you special, and something that's hard, something that not everyone else is doing. And learn to do that. Learn to find. He used to say, learn what is calling to you. Eugene used to say, what calls to you when you perform and when you look at magic? What pieces are calling to you? And so I'm so grateful and thankful that, you know, he put that into, and it's right here, you know, it's right in my forehead. And
Let's talk about what
Yeah.
you do that is very difficult and knowingly difficult and very obvious to everyone that you're doing something very skillful. And then we're going to come back to your history. I want to know more about your transition into
Sure.
this incredible craft. What Jan does on stage, unlike any MC I've seen, and I love MCing. I know some people are scared of that, but I would hate to have to take her place if she's not available because the pressure would be severe. There's over 100 people in the audience, and she will go through without looking at any notes and tell you every single person's anniversary, birthday, what they're celebrating, why they're here, who they're here with, who they're here to see, where they're from, and makes everyone in the audience feel absolutely special. And it's not probably until she starts wrapping up that they start looking at each other, realizing, how is she even doing this? Because at first it just seems so natural. They don't realize, did she just literally memorize everything and does it twice a night for each show? And that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
That skill is not unnoticed to the audience or magicians. I cannot tell you the amount of people that have said, oh, you work at the Chicago Magic Lounge? How does Jan do it? Everything you do seems like an illusion.
Oh, thank you.
It really does, and that's
so
why I
nice.
said.
Thank you.
I actually said, I
What a
said,
nice
you don't have to
compliment.
share any of your secrets if you don't want to. She's like, well, no, I don't have any secrets. I was like, well, it seems like you do because what you're doing seems impossible.
It's not a secret, and that's what's so amazing about it, is that when I first, you know, came to work with Joey and the founding members of the Chicago Magic Lounge in its early, you know, in its beginnings, I watched Joey MC and Joey Cranford, and he was simply amazing. And I would always watch him because he would take the stage and he would tell the story of Chicago style magic, and he would tell it with such passion. And Joey's style is, you know, he's a comedy club person and trained, you know,
In
comedy
improv
club
as well.
and improv, you're right. So it was funny, and he would do the voices of the folks and the characters from Chicago.
Oh, great.
And it was just the most incredible thing. But when that's how he would open the show, with the, you know, the story, the opening monologue. But then our format, our signature show format, where we open the show with the story of Chicago Magic, then the feature comes out, and then before the headliner, I do shout outs, and that's when I do what you're talking about, right, with the audience. But I would watch Joey, and what Joey would do is he would say, who's celebrating? And every single night, there were so many hands that went up. And people were shouting out and talking, and yeah, we have a birthday, and I have a new car, and I have a new job, and job promotion, and we have a new cat, we have a new, you know. And so people, there were so many folks that were so excited, you know, about sharing what they were celebrating, and Joey would talk to them and do jokes, and it was just a fun moment in the show. So much later, when I took on the role of emceeing, and I was doing the opening monologue and the story, and, you know, Joey said to me, wow, you know, Jan, now in the center, you know, talk to folks and do birthdays or celebrations. Like, you know, make sure you're acknowledging the folks in the audience, and at the same time you're doing that for the audience, it gives our headliner a chance to set up and get ready before he, you know, he or she comes out. So I'm thinking, wow, how will I do that? And what is it about that moment, that, back to Eugene, that called to me? And what called to me, Michael, was that there were so many people almost every single night celebrating something
So many. And they were so excited about wanting to be heard and wanting their story to be told. And I thought, wow, what am I going to do? I want to include everybody. I want everyone to get a voice or a mention. How can I do that? And then I said, I wonder if I could memorize everybody.
Wow.
I wonder if I could do that. And so I thought, well, the only way I'm going to know is if I give it a go, try it. You know, I have to play with it and see if I could do it.
Kind of the only way to practice, right? Because it's kind of like a watch steal. You have to practice doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to just, but I had to have a plan, because remember, I was trained by Max Maven, who always said, you have to have an out, you have to know what you're doing, you know. But then he would also say to me, you can't expect to be perfect in this business. You have to take some chances. Take chances. So I had all these messages in my brain, and I said, I really want to do this. Well, the good news was that I knew that room really well, because I had worked, you know, the room so much. I knew the room. I knew all the sections of the room, and I knew the location. And I thought, well, I have that on my side. I know the floor plan really well. So basically what I did is I also thought, and wait a minute, I have the cocktail hour. I walk around and I say hello to everyone as they come in. So I can just ask them.
Right.
Hi, what's your name? What are you celebrating? Tell me about your party. Tell me about what you're doing. Because people are so excited to talk about themselves. They want to share. They want to let you know what they're doing, what they're thinking, why they're there. And especially, it's a celebratory evening. They're excited to say, oh, it's, you know, it's our anniversary. It's our birthday. Oh, we just bought a new home. Oh, this is our first night out since our new baby. And we're so excited. You know, we have a babysitter and here we are. And people are really excited about that. So I found that, first of all, it was really nice to give folks a voice and let them talk to me and tell me. And I learned that also from Eugene, because Eugene taught me how to read tarot cards. And he said, people talk too much. Magicians talk too much. You have to shut up. You have to know when to be quiet and let your spectators speak. Because if you're quiet, they'll tell you everything you need to know. And how can you learn anything if you're the one always talking?
Right.
So let your spectators speak to you. You will learn everything about them. And I thought that was such wisdom, because as magicians, we're professional speakers.
Right.
And we're professional talkers. We're so comfortable talking. And I'm an actress, and I did narration, and I did theater and film, and I'm very comfortable speaking to people and being social with people. But I had to learn to just say one or two sentences and then zip it. And boy, they would tell me everything. So that is one of the first things that I don't think is a secret, but yet it's wisdom.
Right.
That I learned from Eugene, his words of wisdom, because when you are silent and you let people speak to you, you get everything you need to do your act. You know, you get so much information, you get jokes, you get funny things that they say about themselves. And I always ask permission, you know, because sometimes someone will say, oh, we've been married 50 years. I'll say, 50 years? Wow, that's amazing. What's the secret, you know, to your marriage? And they'll say something really funny, like, oh, I've learned to shut up, or I've learned to say yes all the time, or I've learned, you know, and they'll say, that's terrific. And I share that with the crowd because I love that. That's words of wisdom. And they'll say, sure. So when I do the shout out, not only am I saying their names and how long they're married, but then I say, and they told me the secret to their long marriage is, and then I say this line, and the audience loves that, and they love it. And it gives them a voice. So by watching Joey, by listening to my history of my work with Eugene, I developed that this was something I really wanted to do. I really wanted to take on this challenge of, you know, in the cocktail hour, I have about 20 minutes to hit every single table, say hello to people, gather my information, and then I'm good to go.
Yeah.
I open the show, I do the monologue, I introduce the feature act, and then when I come back, I do my, you know, shout outs to everybody, and then I do my pieces to the folks in the audience. And I found that I could do it. You know, it was possible. And
not to mention, you're giving so much material to the performer waiting behind the curtain. If they're paying attention
sure,
and listening to you instead of just thinking in their own head,
yeah,
you're giving them so much to work
sure.
with so many times, because now this is what 9 times in a row you've introduced me, and I come out and now I know that it's this guy's birthday or that they're having an anniversary or specific details, and then when I call that back, people just love that because now
fun.
It's an all-inclusive show, and
Yes.
it continues, it flows so well together, and so you're giving us material. But she's not only including everyone and making them feel special, but they also all feel special because of the history you're talking about. Chicago has more history and magic than any other city.
Amazing.
And by going through that, everyone feels that they're part of something, they're part of a moment because you go through that. And I would say that that's the number one reason that this place is sold out every night is because of those 2 factors. Everyone feels special and everyone feels that they're part of something special.
Thank you for saying that. So many things that you just said are just so spot on and just touch my heart. And it just so happens, you know, that we're constantly revising and talking about the opening monologue. And I am in the process right now of working with Joey and working with Cindy on adding some other photographs to the opening piece because of the feedback we're getting, because we bring people into an experience here, as you said, and we do that in such a lovely way. We stand on each other's shoulders, and in the way that we bring them in to the experience, and then they have Jeff Bibick at the bar doing traditional bar magic, and he's so wonderful and so funny. And they're just joke after joke and trick after trick with Jeff, who's just terrific. And then those audience members, they're excited, they're happy, they come in to us, and now they're gonna have the showroom, and they're gonna have magicians coming to their table. But what I hear a lot from the crowd is they talk about the history. Wow, that must have been really something to work in those bars, or gee, what was that like, Jan? Or wow, that picture. And we added those slides, you know, the pictures during the monologue of Matt Schulian, of Schulian's Restaurant, of the Pickle Barrel, of Little Bit O' Magic, of Bill Weimer in the day when he ran that place. And he was terrific. You know, he was so fun and so warm. And the first time I worked there, I was so nervous. And I had just learned some 2-person mentalism stuff with Dan.
I was going to ask you if you had worked on some mentalism.
Yeah,
I'm sure most people think what you're doing is mentalism.
Well, that's where I was trained in magic, you know, regarding memory. So I learned this act, this 2-person act, and I learned it through Eddie Fields. It was his act that he did with his partner, but his partner George Martz passed away, so Eddie was an older person carrying all this wonderful material. And when Jay Marshall and Eugene Berger got to know Dan and myself, they said, wow, this would be a great couple to learn this act.
Wow.
So they were, I know.
It's mind-blowing.
What
it's
blessing.
mind-blowing.
What a blessing. So I had been doing children's magic with Dan for years. We were touring a children's theater show, and Eugene said to me, you can't do that kid's show. The rest of your life, you got to learn something. And that's when he said, learn something really difficult. Well, you know, this is going to be perfect for you. So he knew that I loved memory, and he knew I was good at it as an actress. And he says, so this is a good act for you. So Eddie taught us that act. It took a couple of years. We worked with Eddie for a couple of years.
Wow.
He lived in a suburb of Chicago, so we were able to do it in person. And Eddie had nothing written down, so we had to learn it just from him.
Wow.
So we learned this act, and we were trying to do it anywhere. We would do it at parties, and we drove our families crazy, and eventually we started getting out in the world and doing it, you know, where we felt safe and secure. So Bill said, come to Biddle Magic, Bill Weimer, and work with me and get up and do the show. Do something. I said to Bill, he said, well, Jan, how much time can you do? I said, I don't know. And I was serious. I wasn't being funny, you know, because I didn't know how long I could go with the objects. I didn't know how well I would be doing with the crowd. And he said, well, you know what? I'm going to open the show. I'm going to talk to you're going to see me open the show. I'm going to do a couple of pieces. And then I'm going to introduce you, Dan. Come out, and whatever you do. And I'll make up the time. Don't worry about it. And I thought, what a sweetheart he was. What a sweetheart. So I said, okay. And I remember my legs were shaking. They were shaking so severely. I was wearing a dress, and I thought, oh, I shouldn't have worn a dress because my knees were like shaking. I was so scared. But I got up and I did the act with Dan, and we did fine. We did well, and I was promised cheese fries afterwards. Eugene said, if you get up and perform, I'll buy you cheese fries.
Motivation.
So got up and did the act, but I started working on that routine. And
So how much time did you do? Do you remember?
oh, I don't remember. I just remember I was scared to death, and we got up and we did 2 pieces. We did a piece where we do a math calculation unseen, and we did objects, you know, and then we closed with a dollar bill, serial number on a dollar bill. That I remember. So I don't know how long we did, but this is the thing. We had a person that was taking care of us.
Right.
That said, you know what? He gave us an opportunity. You know, and when you have people in this business that give you a chance to say, I got your back.
Yeah.
You know, get up, do what you can do, and I'm going to make up the time, don't worry about it. You know, and it was a casual enough place, and Bill was confident enough that he could do it because he managed the room, emceed the room, performed in the room. So he was sturdy. He knew he could do that easily and just take care of the show. And he did that for us, and it was really wonderful. And it was also, for me, it gave me confidence, you know, that I was going to be successful, and I could do this. I could get up and work and perform with other magicians and get to know other magicians.
So let's go before that time, because you started out in theater as an actress.
Yeah.
Now, she did something that I wouldn't recommend to anyone, and that is she married a magician. Not a recommendation.
Oh, you know, it happened. It was so funny how it happened because.
But is that the transition to magic, or was it before?
That was my transition to magic was an audition. So I started out as a dancer, and I was performing professionally when I was in high school. I was in a ballet company called the Ruth Page Ballet Company in Chicago, and I was performing as a ballerina. And I did that for about 3 years. And then, you know, I was a really good dancer, but I wasn't going to be a prima, you know? So, and I was told that very bluntly, because that's the ballet world. They just let you know.
Right.
So they said, you know, you're good, but you're not, you know, because as I was auditioning, I was always in the company, and then eventually I wasn't in the company. I was just, you know, training with the company. I wasn't getting cast anymore. And I realized, okay, that I had to take my dance and bring it someplace else. So I started studying acting, and I started doing more levels of dance, like jazz and tap and acrobatics, and I was filling my toolbox, as they say, with skills, and I loved doing theater. I got my first theater job when I was 15, and in West Side Story, I was a shark girl, and I was a dancer, you know, and I was just, it was wild and fun and crazy, and then I, you know, was doing scenes and lines and music, and I thought I loved theater. So I decided I was gonna bring my dance to theater. So I was a theater person, as I said, got a degree in theater, kept doing theater, started doing film. I went equity, I went SAG, and I was a professional performer in the industry in both arenas, had an agency, of course, you know, was working. And my agent called me and said, I have an audition for you. It's a little bit different, but I think you'll be great. And the agent explained the audition, and it was for a theater show that had magic in it.
Okay.
At the First Chicago Center in Chicago, and it was a long-running production, and it was going to be starting like Thanksgiving and then going all the way to New Year's Eve. So it was it was holiday based and holiday themed. And I thought, okay, you know, I'll go to the audition. And then eventually I thought, oh wow, I don't know anything about magic. But my agent explained that in the description of what they wanted in this character, that wasn't as important as that you had a lot of theater experience, were physical, you know, had a physical background, were flexible, because there were illusions.
Yeah, better be
And,
flexible.
You know, and I didn't know anything about that, but I knew I could dance, and I was very trained and very strong as a dancer, so I was confident in that. I went to the audition, and Danny was the magician that had gotten hired to do the show. So I auditioned with him, and the show was very clever. We're past 20 minutes.
Oh,
I just
okay.
want to let you know.
No problem.
Anyway, so the show was a very cleverly written show. It was written by two folks, Michael Brandwein and Lee Levin. Michael Brandwein dominated the writing, really, and he was a writer for Chicagoland Television. He wrote for the Magic Door television show.
Wow.
So he had a lot of experience in writing, super brilliant guy, also really understood children. So this script was terrific and fun, and my character was a comic relief character that was the voice of the child. So I was whimsical and mischievous and wanted to learn how to do magic, but always messing up and always doing the wrong thing, you know. And so I had this great character, and I auditioned, and I got a call back. And I was working with the Drury Lanes at the time, Drury Lane Playhouse Theaters, and I was loving that job. But I loved this audition that I just went on. And I got a call back, and I ended up getting the job. And I ended up working with Danny, you know, Danny Orleans, and we did this show at the First Chicago Center, and we worked like dogs because it was a new script. So we were day and night rehearsing, and I was learning Metamorphosis and assisting with Boy to Rabbit and learning the script and learning to do some simple slights. But luckily my character always messed up, so I didn't have to worry. No, if I didn't get it right.
Right.
Because I was supposed to mess
That's
up
good.
anyway. But I did a couple of things that, you know, torn and restore, you know, tricks that the kids loved, and you know, wilting flower and drooping this and drooping that, you know, and snake cans. And I was the comedy part of the show, and Dan was the leader and the teacher and the advisor, you know, the magician on stage. But I was crazy, and I loved it. And we toured that show. It became very successful for 6 years.
Wow.
Because we got picked up by an East Coast agent. And so we went on the road with it, and through that time, we developed a relationship, and ended up getting married in 1986.
40 years later.
Yeah, we got married in 86.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was really. And through that time, we developed a relationship, and ended up getting married in 1986.
40 years later.
Yeah, we got married in 86.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was really my introduction to magic was an audition, you know, and then my introduction to my love for magic came so naturally because I did love it. I was so happy
You were hooked.
in the magic industry. I was hooked. And it was a way that I could take my talents and skills and combine them. And that's, let's just fast forward for the sake of time, is that's what you are seeing now.
Right.
You know, when I take the stage and I feel comfortable commanding an audience or speaking to an audience, a lot of that is my theater background. You know, I am very comfortable. I've worked in houses where there were thousands of people, and I had to take the stage and command a stage. And so I'm very comfortable with that. I'm very comfortable with monologue work. And so the MC position was a good one for me. And doing the opening of the storytelling, that's what I'm trained to do. As an actress, I'm a storyteller. And as an actress, I'm also trained to take something and make it fresh every time you do it. You know, every time you hit that stage, it's as though it were the first time. And so I find it really exciting that every audience that comes through that door, it's new, it's fun, it's exciting for me.
It is
to learn
exciting.
about
It's
that.
exciting to hear you every time.
Yeah, well,
Every
thank
night.
you. And to learn about and then there I am in the moment. Now I get to do the magic.
Yeah.
Now we combine the skills of all the memory techniques I've learned that were not necessarily part of the code structure itself,
Right.
but in addition, you know, it's so helpful as magicians know, it's sleight of hand. You know, if you can memorize a deck or have memory skills, your job is going to be, you know, you have all those other techniques working for you.
Right.
So I learned a bunch of memory techniques and I use them.
Excellent. One thing to make sure I want to get
Sure.
before we get, and then we have a show to do.
Yes,
so
we do.
I'd
Yeah,
love
we
to
have
pick
two
your brains
shows
for
to
2
do.
more hours, but yeah, we have 2 shows tonight.
2 shows to do.
You were recently presented with an award by the
I
International
was.
Brotherhood of Magicians.
Oh.
Tell us about that. Was it a surprise? How did
It was
that
a
make you feel?
surprise. It was a surprise. So Charles Orkin came to Chicago, and I was so honored with the presidential award this year, and I was surprised. Benjamin Barnes came to me and said, you know, Jan, could you put on something nice, you know, put on one of your costumes, because Cynthia has to take some promo pictures of the lounge, and it would be nice if there's a person in the picture. So come out and we'll do some photographs. I said, sure, of course I'll do that for you. So I put on a sport coat and put some makeup on and lipstick, and I went out. But in the audience of our cabaret theater were our magicians, and I looked and said, what's going on? And then all of a sudden Charles Arkin came out and he had the award, and I was presented with the award. So yes, it was a surprise.
Wonderful.
It was really interesting because I was stunned and I did weep. And it was interesting because I felt like everything that I love, the 40 years that I felt so blessed to work, you know, I'm a worker and I love working. And so I always felt so rewarded by just being able to perform as a living. This is my job. And that was enough for me, that I because we performed. That was our work, and that was our life, and that was what we did. And but it was so lovely to add that cherry on top of the sundae of being recognized
by your peers.
By your community. It meant so much, and it was so lovely that it was right on the 40th, you know.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So it was really sweet,
Well,
really special. Thank you.
I would have trouble finding someone more deserving
Thank you
from
so
for
much.
presidential citation than what you've done and what we were now recognizing you're doing in the world of magic.
Thank you.
And I know the IBM appreciates it.
Oh.
So we're gonna wrap this up. I hope to bring you back. Actually, I want to have a special family episode because you have so much entertainment in your family. I have so many more questions, but we're gonna have to wrap it up. But this has been Jan Rose on a special on location episode of Something Up My Sleeve here at the Chicago Magic Lounge. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank
Absolutely.
you for asking me.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
We are so lucky to have someone else that was at the Chicago Magic Lounge, and I just couldn't interview him in person. We had too much going on, but I'm so stoked to have on the show Peter Samelson. He is well known in the magic community, and the New York Times actually christened him as the soft-spoken conceptualist of sorcery. What a fabulous title. He's performed atop the Great Wall of China and the jungles of Bali, everywhere from universities in Tokyo to performing on the world cruise of the Queen Elizabeth. He is what we would call in the industry a well-rounded performer, and I got to see him at the Chicago Magic Lounge go from a 30-minute close-up act to a completely different 90-minute stage show. So I am so happy to pick his brain. Please put your hands together and welcome to the studio, Peter Samelson. Hello.
Hello. Hi. It was such a delight to be able to share the Chicago Magic Lounge experience with you. That was just terrific. I think the last time,
we were all there, and Jan was there, and I got to interview her live, and you were there doing your thing, and I'm so sorry that we weren't able to do this on location. It's so crazy because I was in the same spot with you, but it's okay because due to the magic of technology, I have you here.
yeah, and we get to do this live, which is always exciting.
Which people don't know the difference. Like the people don't know that this, for all they know, this could be pre-recorded. This could be magic, but for you and I, this is a moment. This is an experience, and I'm gonna start you off because I have so many questions. But actually, I just want to let you kind of lead this because you have so much to share. My first question to my guest is, what is something up your sleeve?
Travel is what's up my sleeve, and that's just one of the exciting things about what's sort of coming up this year. It's just I feel like we kind of burst out of the lockdown, and boy, there are three stages in life that you go through. There's the go stage, there's the slow go, and then there's no go. So we went from, in 2019, 2020, the calendar was booked up for the remaining of 2020, and we went from go to no-go, and like you could hear the brakes squealing. So it feels like it's back up again. So here we are on a Tuesday night here, post the day after the eclipse, and geez.
Did you watch the eclipse? Did you get to see it?
I did not actually.
Okay.
I had to work on last night in the city, and it just wasn't. I wasn't able to go, and if I'd been able to do that, I would have traveled and been in the totality zone.
Why would anyone schedule anything at the exact same time as like an event that only happens once every 50 years or something? Like, what are they thinking?
I have no idea.
Well, it's just, I tried. I went outside and I tried to see it, but New Orleans was covered in clouds, So I just had to go with what everyone else was posting
Exactly. And I
and
figure,
share that with them.
like many other things in life, there's these days there are recordings of it, and I can see beautiful photographs of this. It's just amazing. Yeah, so what's coming up and what's up my sleeve is that this travel. I leave Thursday in 2 nights. I'll be on a plane at this time, flying to Ireland, where I meet up with
Wow.
Karen, my partner, who's over there doing a Masters of Fine Arts program for this year is the end of the program for now, and then she'll be doing the same thing next year. And so we're there, and we're sort of wrap up her studio and wrap up the semester that she's doing. And then we fly to join a ship in the Seychelles and pick up that ship and sail from there to Madagascar and down to Durban and Cape Town. And I spend some time with a College of Magic in Cape Town and do some stuff there. And then I fly back and home for a couple of days and then off. And I'll be out in California doing shows at the Castle and Mystique Dining. And then I get a chance to do this show again, the one that you saw at the Chicago Magic Lounge. I'll be doing that at Rich Block's Dickens Parlor Theater. I'll be there for a full week. And that's going to be just a delight.
Um, I want to get that link so we can post it of where your show is going to be. But before we continue, let me just
Sure.
point out that if you had just been improving, you would have made up the exact same scenario. Like, what a tough life, all this traveling, you get to see the world. I could have just like put you in an improv moment and said like go, and that could all be made up. But you're telling the truth.
Could be.
And this is
Nobody knows.
inspiring to anyone whose guidance counselor is trying to convince them to go to college instead of pursuing magic. Look at Peter and what he's achieved, and the travel and the amazement that he gets to see in the world. I just posted today on one of my platforms something that said to the effect of, if you stop traveling for a month and try to save money, you can actually reduce your happiness by 30%.
Yes, exactly. It's so funny. I was just thinking about that same thing today. This is one of the curses and one of the joys of what we do, which is that when we were at the Chicago Magic Lounge, both of us were sort of on stage, and that joy, that exuberance, that excitement of being on stage performing for a live audience, it's just, there's nothing like it. And I was just thinking today, as I was coming back, I went down to Philadelphia to take care of a little mini fog machine that I've been working on trying to incorporate into the show. And
That's
I
like
came
code
back and I
word.
went,
That's code. Mini fog machine.
exactly. Well, yeah, it's well, we can talk about that too. So
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing that happened there. But I was just thinking as I came out of the car and I went, I feel less worthwhile today than I did when I was in Chicago, just because I was just working. And it's like, it's hard when you're not working to remind yourself that you don't lose value just because you're not actively working on that day. So,
True.
you know,
But we were working for the best audiences that one could ask for. People that are primed
absolutely.
for magic, a
They're
sold out
incredible.
show, incredible crowds. It is not
Yeah.
hard to really appreciate what you do when you're in front of that kind of crowd. And I just want to point out, I don't think you realize I was in the 654 club following you the next weekend. So
Ah,
I don't think you
yes.
appreciate the fact that I had to I mean, not that it was any of the same people necessarily in the crowd, but can you just think for a moment of the pressure I had of having to follow your act? Because I don't even
Mm.
smoke cigars. I'm not even a cigar smoker.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is, well, all right. So we're kind of talking behind, pulling back the curtain and taking a look at stuff. So
That's what we
I've
do.
been doing that smoke piece for a long time. And I actually started doing that years ago with little mini cigars. And I would perform at the castle. Vernon used to come in and watch me do that, believe it or not, at the close-up gallery before they did the renovation. It was still grandfathered in to be able to have fire and actually have a lit cigarette in there. So I was using these million cigars for that smoke. And then things changed, and you couldn't I couldn't do it there. And so all of a sudden it was gone from the act. And I was doing some consulting.
Wait, back up. So
For,
what? The smoking situation changed?
so yeah, so at the castle, they renovated the close-up gallery. And the close-up gallery, once they renovated it, they lost the grandfathering status, which allowed them to have open flame and cigarettes used in there. So all of a sudden, you couldn't do that. You couldn't have fire in that room. So I couldn't light the cigar. I couldn't do it. Everything
Wow.
was changing. And then I was I was working, trying to find all sorts of ways to replicate that. And then I was working on doing consulting for Winter's Tale and the Cherry Orchard at Brooklyn Academy of Music. It was then went on to uh, over to the Old Vic in London. So these shows went back and forth. And the prop master said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have on the outdoor picnic. There's gonna be like a little cigar. It's gonna be like a fake cigar out there." And I went, "Oh, you mean like the powder thing where you blow on it?" He went, "No, no, these are new little things from China. They're actually, they're little units, and they looks like smoke." I went, "Let me see that, please." And so that was before e-cigs actually came in. And so I really was at the front edge of that cusp of using that in a show. And so I came back to the castle and I was able to use that in the show. And our friend Maxim Avon came up after the show and said, "Peter, what was that you were using for the smoke?" I said, "Oh, it's this little thing there." And so he gave up regular smoking and switched over to e-cigs at the time. And I felt very good about that.
Wow.
So that was definitely a good thing. So,
That was actually after having seen that show in the 654 Club. That was actually something I wanted to ask you.
yeah,
Is because everything looked real, but is that a situation where you're using a different kind of smoke, or was what I was seeing an actual cigar?
it's not a real cigar what you're seeing. You're seeing
Ah,
it, and they don't even make these anymore. When this goes, I'm scrambling to try to
right.
replace it and do it up. Um,
You're gonna have to 3D print
So
your own
it's
cigars.
an e-cigar, and it generates a thick enough vapor that'll sit in a glass, so it deals like real smoke. And so I'd submitted this to Penn and Teller, and they went, "Oh, we really love that. That's really great, but we can't have anything that looks like a cigarette or cigar on
Oh,
screen."
wow. Okay.
And so
You just got to blow it out of your close-up mat like Shin Lim.
exactly,
It's got to come out of
or
just it got to come out of your ears.
or suck on a Sharpie, right, and let that happen.
Yeah, if it comes out of a Sharpie, it's okay. It just can't look like a cigarette.
Right. So what I started to do was I started to think about this, and our friend Michael Chout suggested, "Well, why don't you do it in a bottle?" And I went, "Oh, that's an interesting idea. Yeah. What can I use?" I said, "Oh, dry ice." So I worked out a way to have a real bottle and dry ice suspended in this on a little thread with the water below it. So there's no fog coming out. But when you tip the bottle, the water comes in contact with the dry ice, which lays against the side of the bottle, and it starts to generate fog. So that's really great. I used that for a while, but it's really hard to get dry ice when you're on the road
Yeah.
and to try and maintain that. So they've
Well,
started
it's
coming
not
up with
even
these little.
legalized. Now they have little shops you can go to. You have a dry ice card. You have to apply for a membership, and then you can go in, and then they give you like little gummy dry ices. Little
Gummy ices.
little gummy
So
ices you can use.
so this is so I've there are a couple of
I just want to
different
point out, I don't know
versions.
if this is what you plan to talk about, but I find this
No,
absolutely fascinating. I could spend the next 3 hours talking to you about smoke.
exactly. So we're gonna migrate from that to So how do you do this with a bottle? So I picked up a little fogger. Vosentech is this little thing. It's a mini fogger. There are a number of them out there, and my friend Levent just sent me one to play with as well. But then, so how do you get that into a bottle? So I tried cutting bottles, and then I started 3D printing bottles.
Oh
So
wow.
This is now a 3D printed bottle
Oh,
that I've got,
jeez.
and it'll hold the fogger, so I can then generate. I don't have it in there now, but it'll then generate the fog. And as I tip it, it's got a switch in there that when you tip it, it turns it on, and so it'll start pouring out. So that's my trying to eliminate all the issues with that and get that all done. So anyway, so maybe it'll end up being on Penn and Teller. We'll see.
Well, and that's a perfect segue into the time you were on Penn and Teller. And I think I have it queued up properly to actually show what I want everybody. I'm going to put the link in the chat so people can
Oh,
watch
great.
your
Yeah.
whole act. But if they really pay attention to the end, he gives you like an ultimate compliment that I don't even know how you handle. So I want to talk to you about your experience, but first let's take a look at
Okay.
this as I'm going to pull it up right now. Give me a second here to do that and get that. Here it is.
Wonderful science fiction story. The rising out of the book is just great. All those Samelson touches that you don't get unless you've been working fabulously for as long as you have. You're just of the list of best magicians, you're in there. And this is a version of Wild Card.
Yes.
And I'm not going to speak to you in code. There's no reason to slip in little things here and there. It's from the late 60s. And this is the best version anyone is ever going to see, with a couple of wrinkles in it that are really, really beautiful. And you are one of the greatest magicians alive. And I think that you were showing us a wonderful theatrical science fiction story. And you know that we know the tricks we do.
How
Yeah,
do you
and
handle
I've
a
and I've
compliment
known
like
them
that?
for 45 years. I mean, they've seen everything I've ever done, so I was not surprised.
Yeah,
I
you
did,
actually said, and I quote, "I knew them before they were Penn and Teller."
exactly. They were Asparagus Valley Cultural Society. Yeah, exactly. And man, I've been a fan forever, obviously, and so yeah, so I tried to work in some things that I thought might fool them, but Eric Mead sort of did the Conover thing, and at one point, and our friend Eric said, basically said, okay, so if there's one part that fools you, then you have to say that I fooled you. Well, that's not flying these days. So,
Right.
so there may have been things in there that fooled them, but you know they knew the basis of everything that's there. So it was a delight. It happened during COVID. It was like in the fall of 2020 when I filmed it, and they wanted to fly me to Vegas to do this, and I went, "Why? It's a close-up piece. I can do it at my desk here. We can do a remote little thing. Why am I risking my life to fly to?" So, but it did, and the Rio was empty. There were two floors that were open, one for performers and one for staff. Uh, you basically went downstairs. There were brown paper bagged lunches and breakfasts and dinners.
Wow.
You'd go down there and you'd pick up your dinner. You'd go back to your room and you'd sit and you'd eat. And so here's the interesting thing. So at the time, they wanted to do the whole thing with ground fog, and they said, no, we want to really produce this. And if you look at the pictures, you'll see. I mean, the thing that's there, they did a great job. I mean, the experience was outstanding. They're so wonderful. And it was the situation where I said, well, are the boys going to come up and sit at the table with me? They went, well, we think so. I went, well, that would kind of, if they're not going to be there, then it's like, okay. But so I get on stage and they say, would you wear like a plastic shield mask to work? And I went, no.
Wow.
No, I'm not gonna go on national television wearing a plastic shield. So they said, and Penn went, that's all right, we'll come up. And they were wearing masks. You should see in the video there. And afterwards, I was talking with Teller, and he said, "Did you flew out? You flew out for this?" I said, "Yeah, flew out yesterday." And I thought, well, that's really nice of him to be concerned about my health and that. And then I thought after that, I went, well, maybe what he's saying is, you were just on an airplane with lots of people, and I'm now sitting next to you. And I thought, that's fair enough. So they ran COVID tests before you flew. And once you arrived, you had to take a COVID test for all that stuff there. So I called the producers and I said, okay, guys, are you guys going to test me as I leave? And they went, no, there's really no point. I said, oh, yes, you are. You're going to test me before I leave so that you can tell Teller that I was COVID free when he was sitting next to me. Because I did not want there to be any question in his mind that he was somehow jeopardizing his health to be up on stage with me. That wasn't fair.
Right.
So that was really an important thing. So anyway,
That
was a
was
great experience.
What a weird time, and what a weird situation to perform in. And kudos to them to try to keep things going during such a crazy moment. But your particular routine, let's talk about, because what I wanted to ask you about was storytelling. You are known as one of the greatest storytellers in magic, because so many of your routines, and I would love to know about your creativity and your inspiration, how this comes about. And maybe you can start with this particular routine about body snatchers.
Yeah, it's interesting. We did our show last night at Monday Night Magic, and we had a celebrity in, a very big music celebrity that came in, and she brought in her son. And the son has been interested in magic. I said after the show, I said, are you interested? Are you going to start doing magic now? And the son, must be about 13 or something like that, said, no, I've been doing magic for several years. And then he came up and said, I've never really met a performer, a magician who really does storytelling the way you do it. And I thought, that's a really, for a young performer, for a young guy. I went, thank you. I'm glad you noticed that. So yeah, so this routine, body snatchers. So here you go. This has been around for a while. I started doing this. I went to the New York. So when I moved to New York, it was in the 70s, and it's a long story, but I found the Magic Townhouse, and Wesley James and a guy named Al Cooper were there. It was being run by Dick Brooks and Dorothy Dietrich, who are amazing people. They now run a Houdini museum out in Pennsylvania, and they were integral in restoring the Grimm game and also in restoring the grave site for Houdini's grave site. They're remarkable people. They're really great. And so they were running this club called the Magic Townhouse. It's Lexington Avenue, or Third Avenue at 61st. Yeah. And upstairs. And so I'd come out of Europe, where I'd just been traveling, and I saw Tommy Wonder do tamed cards. I'm sure I did, because this idea of wild card, but where the changes are different. And I realized that, what is this piece about? Because that's really one of the questions, Michael, that I always ask myself is, I say, when I lecture, I basically say, here's a tool for you to use. And the tool is this. There are 3 questions to always ask when you're working on new material. Why, what, and who? It's really simple. Each has 2 parts. Why is, why am I doing this? And why would anybody want to watch it? Why should anybody care? What is it about is what. And the other part is, what would it look like if it was real magic? And then the who is obviously character and your audience and those things there. But the why and the what are really critical to this. And so with Body Snatchers, it was wild card, but what is happening? One card is changing all the rest to be like it. It's taking over. I went, oh, taking over. kind of like this movie, like Body Snatchers, where they start taking over this little town, and nobody believes the guy when he's trying to tell them and warn them about this. Um, so that was really sort of the inspiration of this, and I realized in that there were a couple of things, and one of them is that uh, I needed to change things in this, and one of the things is the handling, and then the other is the story. So um, the Magic Townhouse and Dorothy was able to get a performance for David Roth and myself and Dorothy all on the Robert Klein show. I won't show you the whole thing, but this is kind of what was like.
So
This
there's a
is
very
way back
close
when.
relationship between science fiction and magic.
Whoop. Wait, what did it
They
say?
both rely very heavily on your
Have you got
sense of
some audio
touch.
there?
Yeah, I believe so.
The flight of your imagination. And there's a classic science fiction movie called The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Anybody ever seen this movie? Yes, yes. 1956, right.
Don't
Kevin
sleep,
McCarthy.
Miles. Don't sleep. Don't sleep. Hello, Miles. I know that movie.
Kevin McCarthy, Dana Winters, right?
Oh, sure.
She was wonderful.
Great.
Anyway, it takes place in. You can always tell.
Deck of cards here.
Thank you.
Remind me to
They're
play
all
poker with
they're
you.
all kings here. Yeah, as you know, you can always tell when someone's been taken over in this movie because they are totally emotionless.
Right.
For some strange reason, this is set in Southern California. Did I offend anybody here? I hope not. I use kings for my little California town. Some of them are asleep, some of them are awake. This is the pod card. Notice the leafy shoots? You can almost imagine the pods beginning to grow. So we have our little California town, our pod creature, and our story.
All right, I'm not gonna do the whole thing for you there, but one of the things I wanted to point out is that in the handling of this, one of the things that traditionally people have always done is technically they've done a Hammond count where they'd show the four kings and they'd show the seven of clubs or the odd card, and then they'd show the other four. And I never liked that, so I realized that I had to work out the handling differences so that you could really see nothing but kings up front, and then you finally introduce the odd card, the wild card in this case. So there was that and the storyline, and it's just become, for me, it's become a signature piece. It's one of the pieces that I do at Speakeasy Magic. So this is the lecture that I did. You weren't there for this, but I did a lecture, and that basically it's called the Speakeasy set. I'll be doing it at the Castle in June. I did it at the Magic Circle. I did it at Magi Fest. So and it focuses on the 13 minutes set that I do at Speakeasy Magic. And it's the Phoenix, which culminates with Ashes on Palm for this. It's Body Snatchers, and it's Ring, Rope, and Rose. So it's a ring and rope routine followed by a vanishing ring that appears in a paper packet suspended from a rose that's in a box. So it's a core tight piece, and all the material is in the lecture is really good, and it's all users and it's workable. It's real workable stuff. So there's that I do. So that's the
Oh, I
Phoenix
thought you
is
were going to
another.
cut to another video. I was like
Oh,
waiting for it. I thought we were going to see a portion of that because I was
well, I can show you. Let me just try this. I don't know if this will
okay.
work or not, but I'll show you just because so the show at the Chicago Magic Lounge was, well, this is an interesting discussion, isn't it? Because there are only a couple places in this world, and in the States, there are really only two. And one of those is Liberty Magic, and the other is the Chicago Magic Lounge. And those are the only two places that have dedicated themselves to creating a laboratory, basically making a space in which a magician can write a show
Right.
and do a new show and let that develop and work. At Liberty Magic, you're working 6 shows a week for 4 weeks. At Chicago Magic Lounge, you're doing 1 show a week, and you're doing it for 12 weeks. So It's this is so there were pieces in the original show that had to be dropped out. I just had to edit and trim and do some pieces. I'll see if I can show you a couple of.
We don't have
have
audio.
audio.
We
Wait, we
lost
lost
your
your
voice.
voice.
Sorry,
Sorry,
we
we
had
had
this
this
trouble
trouble
when
when
we
we
were
were
first
first
uh, trying the
trying the
audio,
audio,
and
and
then we
then we
got it
got it
working.
working.
I have an echo.
Let's see if we can get me back.
Okay.
Am I back with you here
And
or
right
not?
now I can hear you. Perfect.
Okay. Well, then we're not going to be able to take a look at the pictures. But sorry. Yeah, this seems to be something in the eCam that's happening here. So, and I'm not sure why that is.
Well, I was going to say that speaking of these different shows that you're working, I felt bad because apparently I pulled you away from working tonight. I just want to give a shout out to an ongoing show that is called, it's at the Black Squirrel Club. And good friends Francis and Lindsay are involved with that one. It's in Philadelphia
Exactly.
it's called The Wake.
Yes, you did. You pulled me away from that
I
because I
pulled
was
you
in
away.
Philadelphia today. Exactly right.
And so you were supposed to be there, and so this is an immersive experience full of theatrical magic illusions and live music, and it's going on. Do you know, is it every weekend?
Every Tuesday.
Every
Every
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
All right. Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. And well, hopefully you'll be there. I didn't mean to pull you away, but I'm so happy
May
that you can be
14th.
here.
It looks like it'll be
Oh,
May
nice. All
14th.
right,
Yeah.
excellent. All
So, yeah.
right, and
So,
you get
so anyway,
around because I saw you in Chicago. You were supposed to be in Philly tonight. Where is your home base?
So I live in Woodstock. My partner Karen and I have a house in Woodstock that we live. We both had separate houses, and then we sold those, and we ended up in apartments. And then we found a place finally that we're happy with in
Yeah,
Woodstock.
well,
I
that's
keep an
not a real
apartment
place.
in New
That's not
Jersey, which
that's
is
not a
where
real
I am
place.
right now.
Woodstock is a place that they did a big music concert back in like the 60s. That's
Yes.
not an actual place. So if you want to be from like wherever Peter Pan lives, that's okay. We'll accept it.
So yeah, so I mean, what happened with that? You realize that Michael Lang was going to be doing this big festival in the town of Woodstock when we're a little town. What are you doing? Go away! No, you can't do that. So he went out to Yasker's farm and at Bethel, New York, and that's where the hundreds of thousands of people showed up for this festival. So. But Woodstock itself is an old artist colony and music festival town, and there are a lot of people. Bowie had a place up there. Neil Gaiman has got a place up there. Big Pink is up there. So um, it's a great place.
Very cool.
So
A place I would love to visit. Absolutely. So no, go ahead. I was gonna ask you
go ahead.
specifically about what I saw. Well, so uh, I don't know if you had something prepared, but I saw when we were both backstage while we were interviewing Jan Rose that there was another camera that was catching your hands doing some close up magic.
Yeah.
So that
Well,
made me
so
think you had
I'm
something to
happy
share
to
with
do
us.
that. So um, there are a couple things that I'll do. What I'll do for you right now, actually, is I will do for you. So it's one of the pieces that I did last night, and in the shows, and it's a piece that I started doing a long time ago. And there's anyway, so it's a piece called Heartstrings, and it's basically it's a way I you asked me this question. You sort of go, how do you create this stuff? And it's like, again, these questions. It's like, why, what, and who. It's like, why am I doing this, and why should anybody care? So this is one of those things that you find pieces that you love, and then you have to sort of figure out why you love it.
Right.
What is it that you really, where does it, what is it that works for you in that, with the character and the other pieces, So all right, okay. So this is this. So
Okay.
this is the great thing about magic is you get all caught up in it. You stop thinking about things that are going on out there in the real world, things like
Yeah.
where the car is parked and what they're doing to it right now. And that's rare in our lives. Usually we start thinking about the way things used to be, the way things might be next week, if they just changed a little bit. And I'm talking about relationships, it's true. Not the kind of relationship you might have with a bank teller, or the laugh you might share over a lunch counter, but those relationships in our lives that make them worth living. They're like a seedling. You can plant a seedling under concrete. It'll crack through. You can also crush out the light between two fingers. They're fragile. They're delicate. They're easily broken. Relationships can end for many reasons. Believe me, I know. I once demanded great beauty. You won't let me find out who I really am, I said. It was the 70s. You're intellectually dull and your cooking's mundane, she said. The tough one. Please don't go. I really need you. And oftentimes our relationships can end in this kind of destruction. And yet we keep hoping. We keep wishing. We keep trying to take back what's been said, undo what's been done. And if we could do that in real life as easily as I do that with a piece of thread, that would be real magic, wouldn't it?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that was real magic. Thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Thank you for sharing. I have a million more questions, but I feel
I know
like
I could talk for hours with you.
That is a perfect closing note. We will talk for hours because I'm going to get in touch with you soon. And I would like to ask you right now, can I bring you back for a future episode so we can talk some more and go over even in more detail? But that was gorgeous. I would love to just leave everyone on that moment where they got to experience some magic, even though it was just over the interweb.
Over the
I
interwebs, exactly, the
I hope that
tubes.
they get to see you in person. There's many
That'd be great.
opportunities because Peter is presenting his headlining show, and you have got to catch him in person. It is truly a magical experience. Thank you so much for being a part
Thanks.
of Something Up
Thank
My
you,
Sleeve,
Michael.
and we hope to
It's
see
really
you
nice.
again very soon in the future. Ladies and
Should be great.
gentlemen, give it up, Peter Samelson.